more and more people that are quarantined because of roommates and stuff like that, or actually tested positive. I have to get a report from the dean that says it, though.
Oh, you'll get an email from him.
Yeah, right. He dropped out. It'd be like he dropped out of school when he found out that his ploy didn't work. Well,
We got no class next Friday, right?
what?
And Thursday?
Yeah, there's no class next Friday.
Hey!
What do you, wait,
What I'm talking about, baby.
really?
For what?
Really?
Auto show, baby.
Wait,
Thursday and Friday.
you're hurting me, man.
Huh?
You're hurting me.
Oh, it's not you.
Hey, I don't have class on Friday. Yay, Sanford, you're terrible. I hate you. This is bad. This is bad. I thought I'd try to keep it interesting, at least. I don't know. Problems managing data resources in a traditional file environment, etc. We'll talk about that. Major capabilities of database management systems, why relational databases are so powerful, principal tools and technologies for accessing information from databases to improve business performance and decision making, and why are information policy, data administration, and data quality assurance essential for managing the blah, blah, blah. It's all about data. Who's the devil?
Data?
Amazon. Amazon and Google, they're the devil. They're taking all the information they can get from you for free and selling it. And what makes it so valuable is that they're able to actually purposely and quite legitimately determine your purchasing trends on your own, which makes that your data that you're providing them is much more valuable because they can show the relationship of all your other decisions. You know, for instance, if I am, well, let's go back to my hammock thing, right? Google, I do a search for hammocks. Well, that's valuable to what? Anyone selling hammocks, right? But it's also valuable to camping in general, right? So I have a very generalized piece of data. But as soon as I start searching for specific brands, specific styles, stuff like that, now all of a sudden that data becomes more valuable to hammock companies, and it actually pertains to them. It's valid data, right? Relational databases are this extremely wonderful thing. I can create relationships and I can identify trends by person. For instance, Northwood runs on a relational database and we have all your grades, and I can notice trends, and if I wanted to, I could say, okay, well, we're doing our job because Kyle, when you started here at Northwood your freshman year, you got 4 F's and 1 C. The C was football. So anyway, you got 4 F's and 1 C. But the second semester, you got 3 F's and 1 C. Still football. And then, you know, you can see this progress and how things improve, and I can see a relationship. And maybe other football players, I do a comparison, and their relationship is opposite. Okay? They get an F in football and a C in the rest of their classes. Yeah, just calling them out now. Okay, so then the next semester they're still getting an F in football and a C in the rest of their classes. And I can notice this trend. And what can I claim the problem is? I can claim the problem is discussing stuff with someone that wears a hat on backwards there. Yeah, exactly. Flip it down, it's gone. But the idea is that it's all data, I can use it, and it's a wonderful world. Now, the thing is it's the relational database, because right here, they're actually talking about traditional file environment versus a relational database or a database itself. Traditional file are your Excel files. Everything's linear, right? I'll draw on this because if I draw on the board, it doesn't show up on the video. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to File, New, Blank Document. Okay, and I'm going to go to Draw. A linear environment. Anyone remember or ever see a cassette tape?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's linear. For me to get from this song here to a song over here, it takes effort. I have to hold down the fast forward button on my cassette player and it fast forwards, and I have to hit play every now and then to see where I'm at. Okay? A relational database, on the other hand, is different because well, actually, let's do this. A relational database, on the other hand, you know what, I'm going to do a shape. A relational database, on the other hand, is a circle, right? It's a CD. It's a platter. Maybe it's on a flash drive. It's digital in nature. And what's really cool is if there is a very specific song here, I push one button and it finds it. And it's almost instantaneous, right? If there's one here, same thing. I push a button, I find it. Everything's stored differently. It's a lot easier to track your data, find your data, and everything else. So an Excel file is linear in nature. So every time I want to input a new record for Kyle, I have to put your first name, last name, address, and everything because I got to fill the whole line in. Every time if I was doing a relational database, every time I have to put a new grade in for TJ or Nicholas, all I do is I search for you, put a grade in, and continue. Okay? So the reason that we use, let's go back here to home. The reason that, oh, I don't want to draw anymore. Go away. I don't want to draw anymore. There we go. Okay, so the reason that we use databases is for consistency. Not in spelling, obviously. Consistency, efficiency, accuracy. Okay. And I would say like speed, but I guess that's in efficiency and stuff. But consistency, efficiency, and accuracy. It saves space too, okay? So it saves space as well, which goes to efficiency as well. But anyway, number one, it's at least the more consistency and accuracy, because instead of having to type Kyle's grade, like the entire information about Kyle, just to enter a new class, like course grade, and possibly spell something wrong, creating a whole new record, and not being able to tell it was actually you, it gets entered once. And once it's entered once, I can find you and just add the grade. And it gets rid of that potential human error of potentially spelling something wrong in every line. Okay, so it makes a big difference. I'm going to pull up Microsoft Access and show you what I'm talking about. In here, I created a really quick database. And a database, I've got multiple files, multiple tables. And when I click on a table, it looks like Excel. Okay? It looks like it's linear in fashion, but it is linear in fashion, but only for the items inside of that table. So the only thing that's linear in fashion are the feeds, right? See how it has a student ID number? That's telling me that feed belongs to that student. I don't have to repeat everything about Kyle. If I go to student table, one thing I can do is, because of that relationship, I can show this. I don't have to type all this information about David Sanford again. All I have to do is literally select a value, put in an amount, and I added that to me. Make sense? You see how we can get efficiency? Right? You see how we can see relationships? What's really cool is that you can do forms and everything else where you show everything, and people can add it in a form instead of an Excel. Instead of an Excel type format or data sheet format, you can actually have a form, which is easier for data input for most people. It's less tedious. Or you can do it like this, where I can type in okay. So it's really important to understand that relational databases are very powerful. Without them, Google and Amazon would not make nearly the money that they make. Without them, we would not have things such as target marketing, because I wouldn't recognize in an easy format whatsoever what relationship your age or gender has to what you're purchasing. It would be a lot harder for me to find out. Right? You know, what about those stores that sell backwards hats? Anyone ever buy a backward hat before? No? I wonder if that would sell. If I just made a line called backward hats. You just take a regular hat and you sell it, but you show it on your mannequins in reverse.
Oh, it would definitely sell.
It probably would.
For sure.
People buy stupid things all the time. If you take my idea and you get rich, I expect at least a venom out of it.
I give you some royalties.
Just recognize that I am royalty, that's enough. So anyway, that's what this chapter is really about, is the power of relational databases. And they're talking about what are the problems with traditional file environment. And I'm going to take it a step backwards from what I just talked about. And remember I said, well, you know, the difference between a cassette tape, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it would be the same concept as back in the day, you would record music off of the radio. If you liked specific songs, you would record it onto a cassette tape. And if I said, hey, I want you to record the American Top 40 this weekend. And you're like, okay, and you're like, okay, and Nina's like, okay, I could do this. And Nina's is on her own tape, and she records, and, you know, she decides that she's going to go have lunch or something, so she goes and has lunch and misses a song. Okay? Because I say I don't want commercials. And then you decided that, well, I had to use the restroom, and you missed the start of the song. And what's that? What's he doing back there again? Okay. And then, you know, Kyle, you decide that you're going to leave early or something, and you miss a song. Even though all of you are supposed to have the American Top 40, there's some error in there because something else happened. And so that was the same concept that we used to use, where everybody was using their own Excel files. That's where we get the inaccuracies and stuff like that. Every one of you was supposed to have a cassette tape of the American Top 40 without commercials. I didn't say without songs. So without commercials. So I wanted all 40 songs. But I got 3 different results for the same set of data. Make sense? That was the problem with traditional files and everybody having their own data, was that a lot of inconsistency and potential inaccuracy. Not a hard concept to understand by any means. The book makes it sound like it's this big, long, drawn-out thing, but there you go. There's an example for you. And the major capabilities of database management systems, I just showed you that relational database model, being able to find anything at any time based on something. If I was to go back to this data and I was to look at a student, you see how there is, I only have one student showing. Let me add a new, no, Ethan. Okay, so Ethan's in there. So if I was to run this again, but I wanted to put in Ethan, I show just Ethan's. Okay. Make sense? Okay, glad we all agree. Works for me. The other thing about that is if I go back to student and I look at Ethan, Ethan has one for $60. What if I gave him another one and that was for $5,000? Now I go back and I run that query again. By the way, that's what I just ran. I'm running a query and I can find information about just a single thing. Problem is it's not showing all records related to Ethan, right? And when I run that, it wasn't showing all records related to David. It's just showing one. I would want to see them all on that screen. So instead of doing what I did here, I would have had a subform and it would have shown that whole subform. Okay. Just like when you're here, you know, it shows everything. Well, I didn't tell it to do that in the query, which a query is asking questions of data. So if I actually was to go into this query, it shows it all. So why is the form not doing it? So the form has something wrong with it. But the actual query is working. And let me show you what happened in the query. With a relational database, I can identify criteria. So I can search and filter for information. Okay. If I did it by last name or what have you. I'm going to do right here, I just want to see all ECs. I can't remember if that was in quotes, or not quotes, I don't remember if that was, let me go out here real quick and look. EC, yeah, so there's no periods. Okay, so I want to see just the ones that have EC. If I was to run that query again, right? So I want to run this query again. Let's save this. And I'm going to open that query again. Now it shows me all that are EC. The relational database model makes it a lot easier to ask questions about your data and receive very specific things. Instead of showing the amount, if I wanted to, I could show the average. Okay, so if I was to go back into this query, and instead of saying EC here, I could say it's been a while since I've used Access for this. Let me try something. I don't think this is going to work. I'm probably going to get the same problem. Let's try equals. Oh, I just can't remember all of a sudden how to do a function in here. It's a lot easier in SQL. So if I can't remember, instead of guessing, I could just do that, which I never thought about. Why am I not seeing totals? There it is. That's what I wanted. So amount would have been show sort table total group by, and I could say average. Okay, so I could see the actual average, but now it's showing all of them, right? And I don't necessarily want to show all of them, but it's showing the average EC and the average AC for David Sanford, the average AC and the average EC for Ethan Johnson. Okay. I can do mathematical calculations and actually get really valuable data from this. Things that help me identify ways of, like I said, target marketing, or recognizing, if I was a library, recognizing if you had books that were late. I could actually see a trend and say, you're one person, I don't remember your name. Mm-hmm.
You remember my name?
No. I haven't said it yet in class. Short of taking roll 2 weeks ago. Tell me your name.
I'll figure it out.
Okay, Mr. Figure It Out back there. I can see a trend.
Starts to see. And he was a president at one time. His name started with a C.
Carter?
No.
It wasn't Clinton.
No.
Why are you going to do that to me?
Make you think a little bit.
Calvin.
Yes, sir. Calvin Coolidge.
What do you know?
I don't have a degree in history, man.
Your wife does.
She does, but I don't talk to her about history. I talk to her about now. I don't want her to remember the past. It's never good to rehash the things from the past. But anyway, I can notice a trend if I was to look at his library data and say, okay, well, he's consistently losing books. How can we help him? Maybe I increase his fines, make it worth returning the books. I don't know. Okay, but the idea is that I have a relational database. I can identify trends by an individual. I can identify trends as a group. Okay. So that's the value. Now, what do we do with that? Remember, you're back. How did I not notice him leave?
Sneaky.
He is sneaky. It's your day to watch him.
Yeah,
So,
I saw
anyway.
him walk out, so I got on lockdown here.
Okay.
Sanford, he's gone.
Oh no, I was probably trying to do something here and I just zoned out.
Said bye.
Did you?
I used it.
I did?
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
I don't know.
This is what I was actually looking for, just to show you. Ah, yeah, that's why I couldn't do it. Had to be in square brackets. Okay, so that answers that question. I was just curious why it didn't work for me. So there's that. Anyway, so yeah, that's the capabilities of the database management system, is it allows me to group things together based on attributes. Okay. In database, an entity would be the table. The table is usually named after an entity, such as student. Okay. The attributes are the field names that are in that table. So those things that describe the student would be the attributes or the field names. Cool? Cool. Okay. Okay, so then, what do we have? Why is it so powerful? I think I just explained that. It's because it's valuable. That's just a lousy answer. It's not just because it's valuable. It's powerful because of all of the information that we can get from it. A database does nothing but store basically ones and zeros, right? So it stores data. We have to analyze that data to get information. That information, in essence, at the end of the day, improves business performance and decision making by what? Actually using that information? Business intelligence doesn't exist without data. Business intelligence is, well, I can't say that. It can exist without, no, it can't exist without data. Making a decision just to make a decision is not very intelligent. Think about your life. Think about the decisions you've made, maybe growing up. You deciding to go to a party when you were 16 and getting caught wasn't necessarily that smart of an idea, right? So what did you base your decision off of? Chance? What are the chances that I won't get caught? That's not a good option, okay? The best option would be like, okay, let me see, out of all the years that I've been alive, how many times have I not gotten caught doing something stupid? Right?
Every time.
You got caught every time?
No, I said didn't get caught ever.
By your parents. You might get caught by someone else. Who knows? Other people's parents, maybe. So, but the idea is that, you're going to look at the data, analyze it, and say, okay, well, is this a good idea or is this not a good idea? That's the intelligence side. You don't just make a choice without actually thinking about it, because it could have very negative results, right? I do not want to, as far as MIS is concerned, I do not want to just adopt a piece of technology because it exists. I want to actually look at data to see how it's helped other companies, maybe. That could be a beneficial thing, because I can add some level of intelligence to my decision-making process, right? I can actually look at the data, see how other people have fared using that technology, and then I can use that as a strategic component or a descriptive component of my decision to use it or not use it. So if someone came up to me and said, well, why don't you use Moodle instead of Blackboard? It's open source. It's organizations that use it, maybe they've had, and I don't know if this is true, I'd have to do research on the data in that, but maybe there's data out there that supports that anyone that uses Moodle has been more susceptible to data breaches. Okay, I don't know, but the thing is you would use data to support that. Would I want to, let's see, what would be a good example? If I was Dick's Sporting Goods, or Dunham's, or any of them, would I want to target market people in their 80s?
No.
It would be a poor decision. I'd be spending a lot of money targeting people that are not likely to even show up. The target marketing would actually be for which age group, At what age do you think people start dwindling off. Number one. Number two, let's say they are older and their primary sport is golf. They're going to come looking for golf stuff anyway. Are you likely to be able to change 80-year-old's mind on where he's going to purchase his stuff or her stuff? Yeah, no, they're going to keep going where they have been going for years. So why am I going to target market, right? Now, if I was to do research, and look at my data and you make a data-driven decision instead of just this random discussion we're having, maybe I look at the research and I see, oh, well, I've had an influx of new people. Well, what age range was that? And maybe the new people are coming from that 80-year-old demographic. Then I might look at why. Oh, the local golf shop, the owner retired and sold off or just closed the business. So now maybe I do have to target market because those people are looking for a new place to get their stuff from, right? But I can notice the trend through my data. So business intelligence is just about using data to better make more well-informed business decisions. And just because you use data to make business decisions doesn't mean it's always going to be fruitful. It doesn't always mean there's an advantage. It just means that you have a higher likelihood that it's going to lead to an advantage or it's going to be a fruitful decision, something that you benefit from. There's never a guarantee, but you can definitely mitigate the risks. It's the same idea as buying a new car versus a used car. What are the advantages to buying a new car? It's under warranty.
Yeah.
Right? What? There's nothing wrong with it, right? It's brand new. There's nothing wrong with it. It's got low miles. The odds in it having problems should be lower than a used car, right? And I said should be. And then, but the thing about it is that I'm also hedging my bets by buying new because it's under warranty. So any major problems that occur, I don't have to pay out of pocket, right? So there are advantages to it, but the disadvantages are, well, they're not building cars like they used to, and there are a lot of recalls. Yes, I don't have to pay for them, but it's very problematic, right? I know that I'm losing a lot of money right off the lot. Now I could do some data research and see what loses the least amount of money and base base my decision on a new car off of that. And you're sitting there like, that might not work because that fluctuates too.
Maybe in this market right now.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day though, you're sitting there and you're making life decisions the same way you would make a business decision. You're looking at history, you're looking at things that have happened to you, you're looking at things that have happened to your parents. You're not storing it in some linear fashion, you're doing it in a relational manner, right? You're thinking about the people that you've been involved with and, your friends, your family, their family, stuff like that. You're basing it off of data, it's just not stored in a database. That's the way you make more informed decisions. If you go buy a brand new car just because you like it, you don't know what you just did to yourself, right? So, interesting nonetheless. It's not a hard chapter. It's pretty straightforward. But, that brings us to principal tools and technologies for accessing information from databases. There are so many ways. These days, just an app on your phone, a form on the internet. You fill out a form on the internet, you hit enter, it sends that information to a database, or pulls information from a database. When you're using the Yahoo search engine, I'm going camping soon and I need a new water filter. I let mine freeze. Oops. Once it freezes, it's no good anymore. I might have done it on purpose. I don't know. Seems you get something new when something breaks, so not quite a very good way of doing things. So I typed a value in there, and Google decides I am going to go out there and I'm going to find everything that's related to those words. And it could be sales, it could be reviews, right? And I can go out here and say, what are the best water filters for outdoor activities? And I can start reading and everything else. They're not concerned with the legitimacy of the stuff. Someone can tell me this water filter is great. Next thing you know, I have a problem for 3 weeks. Right? Yeah, don't want that to happen. But the idea is that they find everything related and then they put it there. Now the other thing that they do though, and this is part of what makes Google the devil, is they prioritize. Culligan pays money for an advertisement to be one of the very first things that pulls up. Followed by Camping for Me. That's an advertisement. They're paying right now for Google to advertise them. And that would, I believe that cycles over time and stuff. So, because, you know, you'd have to pay a lot of money to be that top one all the time, like forever. Then followed by Amazon. Now the Amazon one's always going to pop up. They pay a lot of money. Okay. So it even breaks it down. Here's a lot of retailers right here, the most popular ones and stuff like that, or people that are paying specifically for advertisements at this point, right? So I can set criteria and I can base it off of what I consider the most valuable information, the most likely thing that you're looking for. Are you looking to purchase one, or are you just looking for information? If I was just looking for information, I'd probably just go out to YouTube and watch people lie to me. And lie is such a misleading word, because some of them are just talking uneducated. That's not really a lie, but you'd better be able to recognize if they're uneducated while they're talking about something that could potentially affect your health. So, I don't know. So anyway, that's an advantage, right? We're talking about this, we're sitting here saying, okay, well, what types of things can we use to access data? Number one, we can use the language of SQL. So Deborah's going to be interested in this, potentially. Okay. In SQL, it looks something like this. I'm selecting everything from a table. It would just show every piece of data in the table. Or I can select customer name and city from customers. So all I want to see is their name and the city they're from. Or I can select star from customers and what have you. Now here's the thing. I can select whatever columns I want, whichever attributes I want, or descriptors, from whatever table I want, where it equals a very specific criteria. Okay? And this is the basic language that Google is using to run these queries. When you type in, when I typed water filters in this and I hit enter, that right there is selecting a criteria for them, which if we go to programming, that's probably going to be in a variable, so it's easier to search for. So they're like, okay, well, we're using this variable as the criteria for this SQL statement. So I hit enter, it executes the SQL statement, and pulls that up. And this time it pulled up a little differently. Imagine that. Notice how things changed. I don't know. Interesting. But anyway, that is the gist of how we do this. We're using a simple query language. Some of them call it simple query markup language, different things like that. But we're using that to actually access databases. We're using criteria to filter the attributes or the field names, the values that are in the fields, to serve a very specific purpose. And one of the things that you saw is that they literally do target market. It's not just that they give you information, they're target marketing. They're still target marketing. When I ask specifically for reviews, the very first thing they pull up are name brands and different things like that. But as soon as I scroll down, now I'm starting to get information. Then I get Amazon. Then I get information. It makes sense whenever you're doing a search for anything, be as specific as you can. If you're not specific, you get non-specific results. Right? You want to make sure that your stuff is accurate and useful. So, not hard. They have a section here talking about the challenges of big data. Big data is, number one, very hard to describe anymore. It almost seems like everyone's using big data. It's almost like a buzzword compared to a concept anymore. But they're right here talking about the volume of data, the variety of the data, and the velocity at which the data must be processed. Those are problems that we have. The variety of data is, and I think, I don't know if I said it in this class or not, but for years and years, people were storing data and had no way of actually analyzing the data in a useful fashion. And because we didn't have the computing power to analyze all of that data. So all of a sudden we start increasing the computer power and we have volumes and volumes and volumes of data that is in the past. Okay. There's all kinds of variety to it because we collected it over a period of years. That's a problem. Because now how do I test the validity? By the way, the validity is not even there, which is basically another V of data. Validity, is it valid anymore? You know, does it, if I had data from the 60s about fashion, is it valid now? Well, maybe because it cycles through, but the idea is that it's not as accurate and not as viable as current data. So is it technically valid? Probably not. Is it reliable? The results I get from analyzing potentially invalid data is definitely not reliable. Reliability relates to being able to do multiple tests in different time frames and get the same results or like results. So this year I checked to see how the football players are doing in classes at Northwood. Yes, I know I'm picking on football players because they're always on their phones. When I say they, it's not they, it's they. So anyway, they're just going to come walk right over here. Make it easier. But the idea is that I can do a study this year about football players and look at their grades and look for trends. And let's say that I notice that football players tend to do really well in management information systems classes. Okay? Yeah, so I didn't say it was going to continue. I'm saying, you know, you could do a study and you can see that that's a trend this year. If I do that study again next year and that same trend shows up, now I've got a little more reliability to that data. If I do it again and it doesn't show up, now I'm like, okay, I got a 50-50 chance. But the more times you test data over a period of time and you get the same results, the more reliable that data is. Okay. They do this in health all the time, health industries. They're looking for multiple tests over a period of time to see if you get the same results. They rush this process sometimes, and we have like vaccines, right? It's not that they put them out without data. They did multiple tests on multiple people, watched them, looked at the results, and as long as there was reliability and you had the same things happening, they can make educated decisions on whether or not to release that. That's what the FDA is looking for. It's not just, oh, here's a vaccine, let's throw it out there. No, here's a vaccine, it's been tested with this control group, this group here, and this group here, and I get like results. Okay, so it's probably fairly safe, we're going to release it. Okay. So what if you grew a third arm? Makes it easier to do tasks. Right? Advantages to everything. Always think about the bright side, right? But that reliability is a big issue. And the variety of data can make that difficult sometimes. Trends change. Stuff that happened in the 60s might not happen now. So is that still valid and reliable data if I analyze that? Probably not. But you have to look at the data and determine that. And then they talk about the velocity at which data must be processed. If I have to do it like immediately, like really fast, then I have to have enough power to do it. Number one. Number two, I better be very accurate on my descriptions of what I'm looking for. But some of these places had so much data. What are you going to do with it? We didn't have the power to do anything with it at first, but now we have the power, but is it really necessary to go back that far? I don't know. Based on velocity, you would have to weigh it out. Well, what are my chances of actually gaining insight from data that's 20 years old? I think I would rather spend my time on current data as much as possible. So, anyway, I had said something about consistency and stuff like that. The book goes a lot more in detail on some of the stuff, but I like to keep things as simple as possible because I think it's easier to understand as a concept, and the odds in any of you ever becoming a database administrator is actually pretty low. We've had a graduate do that. We've had a graduate leave here as a network administrator. And yeah, I know, shocking. He was actually one of the highest paid graduates we had, one of, at the time. We've had someone graduate, we've had a few people graduate quite a bit higher than that in the recent past. So anyway,
What's a bit higher?
a bit higher, we've had people leave in the 70s and 80s for MIS. Yeah. I know we have a graduate that's going to be leaving from cybersecurity management program, and I'm pretty sure she's making more than that.
It's like what? 85, 90s?
Probably 90s.
She just took cybersecurity management. She didn't.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the BS will probably actually, it gives you a higher potential. You got to remember that, all that stuff is still based on, that was talent.
You see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're years of practice.
I would have laughed if it missed.
Went straight up my nostril.
I would have been like, yeah. That's all I would have said. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. But if you actually pay attention to what I was saying, and you look at the things that they're bringing up in the textbook, I've abbreviated this quite well. Because I've been teaching it for years. I've never believed in trying to talk over people, like over the level that people are at. Just because I know something, it doesn't mean I have to make it difficult. Just because other people have made it difficult for me doesn't mean I need to make it difficult for you. So let's keep it simple. Let's relate it to our lives, and we can learn it a lot easier that way. Okay. All those busy work assignments and that aren't a necessity. You just have to understand the concepts. New problems, it's not just data redundancy, by the way. That is a word I didn't use when I was talking about the fact that if you have a different tape than you and you have a different tape than Nina, then the three of you have inconsistency in the data, but you also have a lot of redundancy. Why would I want 3 cassettes with the same stuff? I wouldn't, right? What I would do nowadays is I would say, okay, I'm starting a database and I want you to store all the files. Like, okay, let's actually use it a little differently. I would create an account out there in something like iTunes, and maybe it was a group account, and I would say, okay, I want you guys to include a song each, but I want to deposit them all in the same account. Okay? And it wouldn't allow you to do duplicates. I get rid of redundancy. Instead of having you record the whole thing and Kyle record the whole thing, I'm having you just put parts in it. And I'm not allowing that album or that tape to have repetitive information. Okay? So the redundancy is a big deal. Then we get into the fact of just flat out poor security. Now we get into cybersecurity, right? Everything we do, if everything's in a relational database, you get into the database once and guess what? You potentially have access to everything if it was written poorly, or if the network's set up wrong, or if the network's set up right, but yours truly leaves his computer on in his office and the door's unlocked and I'm logged in and I'm on the administrator account. You could technically go into Blackboard and change grades, etc., right? So the problem is that there's poor security and things can be changed and things can be stolen quite easily, and hacking into people with major databases that have tons of information is quite advantageous if you want to go to jail. You get rich fast, but you better hide it well because you're going to be in jail for a little bit. If you don't hide it well, you're going to lose it. So make it worth your while. Make it worth the time you're going to do. Or just don't do that. Make your money fighting evil instead of being evil.
Yeah.
What's that?
Huh?
Did you say, huh? It's so funny, right?
But at the end of the day, you still have to think like
You do still have to think like them. Just like if you're a police officer, you have to kind of think of, like, years ago when I did loss prevention, one of the things I had to think about is, okay, well, what would I steal that we have? What's of most value? What do I have to really keep an eye on? And then every now and then you had to pay attention to other things just because you had to meet quotas. And one of the things I knew was that for some reason, high school age girls would steal costume jewelry. So I would have tons of busts in a week because I would just concentrate on costume jewelry and I'd bust a lot of high school girls. It's shiny. Costume jewelry, yeah, fake. You know, the cheap rings and stuff, things that were easily grabbed and hidden and stuff. You know, but the thing is I knew the demographic, I knew the product just from experience, and I'm like, well, if I want to bust people and I need to hit a certain quota, I'm just going to focus right here for a little bit. Yeah, other people might have left with very expensive things, but I met my quota. So you got to kind of be careful what you're protecting too, right? I think if you're in cybersecurity, DeWeaver said stuff about like the crown jewels of the organization, right? You got to know what you're protecting and why you're protecting it. Well, one of the crown jewels of any organization is a database these days. Okay, but the idea is that you recognize it, and poor security doesn't just rely on people doing ethical hacking. It also relies on social engineering and social re-engineering, and behavior modification. If TJ was like me and left his computer on in his office and the door unlocked and it was still logged in, I would give you a warning, and the next time you did it, I would just fire you. There would be no conversation. And you would have to have that mentality, and you have to be willing to do that stuff if you have policies against it. If you don't, it's like your parents telling you, you're not allowed to go to college parties because you're 16 years old. You get caught going to a college party, and what do? They slap your hand. Is that enough? So the next time you go, they catch you, and they slap your hand. Okay? So the next time you go, right, you keep getting caught, nothing's happening to you, you just keep doing it. Where my son, the first time he does it, I'm going to have a long conversation. We're going to have a meeting. The second time he does it, he's losing all privileges, his car, and everything. Just because I ain't playing that game with his life. See? And being willing to actually do that, and yes, you're going to upset somebody, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings, you're going to hurt their livelihood, but at the same time, what's your primary objective? Protect data. And if you're not willing to follow through with the policies that are in place, you're not going to protect your data. Okay. It seems mean, but I have a lot of people I can hire. You know, if you're not willing to do it properly, you know, it's the same concept as, you know, you plagiarize a paper or an assignment, I catch you and I just let you rewrite it. Okay. What did that teach you? That teaches you, a lot of us, just to take another chance. Maybe this time you won't read it. Right? Ignoring stuff like that just perpetuates the issue. If I let you leave your computer and all that stuff and nothing ever happens to you, Nick will do the same thing potentially, and if I try to fire him, he's going to be like, well, why didn't you fire him? He does it. Right? That's why you have to be willing to follow through on your policies. And that's why we have poor security, is because we think that our number one problem is the computer itself or the network itself. And that's not necessarily the case. 90% of the problem is human behavior, mistakes. And the same thing goes with the data itself, by the way. Even though you have a relational database, that doesn't mean there can't still be user error. Anytime you put human beings and technology together, you still have potential for problems. Look at these self-driving cars. Self-driving cars are based on algorithms and data. Human behavior can still change that. You know, how do you control for that person that's going to just see your car coming and walk out in front of it? That's human behavior that vehicle might not have been prepared for. Because, you know, when we program something like that and it's new, we don't think of every potential thing that could happen. Right? I think I said something about, if I didn't say it in this class, I said it in another class. Self-driving cars and assistance, right? My friend had a BMW that he was driving, and his BMW had braking assistance, and it also had cruise control that the speed was variable based on the cars in front of you to keep a specific distance and stuff like that. And that works really well, except out in the country where you get, I can't remember what someone called them, sprayers, and I'm doing a very poor drawing, these sprayers have extremely tall wheels with a huge space underneath. One of those was in front of his vehicle, and it didn't recognize that as a vehicle because of where it was looking. So it saw nothing, and he almost went under it. You can't think of every situation. I have a friend that same friend, his brother is involved in his brother's involved in testing facilities for smart cars and self-driving vehicles and stuff like that. And the one thing that he says these manufacturers aren't doing a good job of is they can recognize a car the way it's supposed to be, but what they tend to hit are ambulances and ambulances, police cars, fire trucks, stuff like that. It's because fire trucks, when they're pulled off to the side of the road, and police, when they're pulled off to the side of the road, they're not parked straight, they're parked at an angle. So it doesn't recognize it. So it's more likely to have an accident with that. Wouldn't you think that would be the one thing you would try not to hit? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, it was an interesting conversation because the way that it analyzes the data and stuff, and it doesn't recognize that anomaly of something being parked different than what it should be. That would be like I would assume that you would have the same problems with parking assisted cars that will park your car for you, not recognizing if another car is parked at an angle to protect its paint. You know, someone buys a new car, doesn't matter if it was the cheapest thing on earth, they don't want it scratched, so they park in two spots. I will purposely park as close as I can to that person. Need a can opener. You would need a can opener to get in, because I just no. Don't take up more than one spot. I'll park the same angle right at your door, because I'm that way. And then someone will do that to me, right? Who's calling? It actually might be important. I don't know. Find out. My mother's getting old and she's got some stuff going on.
I hope she's okay.
Yeah. Don't know. Don't know.
What do you mean you didn't pick up the phone? So
Yeah, man. I don't know.
Think of it.
Why? I don't know. I'll call her back. If she's not in the hospital, I'll know she's okay. I got a phone call from her one time. She was in the hospital, but by the time I responded, she was already out of the hospital. So I was like, oh, I guess that wasn't important. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, never mind. So anyway, data warehouses, data marts, all that stuff, you got to remember that a lot of people will actually share a data warehouse where companies are providing a lot of data storage and stuff like that, where some people might actually purchase data from a data mart or something of that nature. We talked about database management to a point because one database management system is Access, another one is SQL, and there are others. I'm just thinking if there's anything else that we need to talk about at this moment, because I know what his goal was. Yeah, answer that call so we don't have to be here, right? We'll get to some of this other stuff next class. Hadoop is actually an important thing because where I'm talking about the importance and the power of a relational database and SQL-based databases, that's actually starting to go away. We're seeing a lot of value in just looking for trends overall and picking apart just large blocks of data. I actually do have one more thing I want to show you before I let you go. Ready?
Ready.
This is actually one of the first things that I ever remember as far as like blockchain and storing data in a non-traditional manner. And what SETI did was SETI is search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And when it was in the 90s, remember I'm old, in the 90s they started sending packets of data to anybody that was a member. You could sign up for free and they would send packets of data. And you got to remember I said that we didn't have the computing power to analyze large blocks of data. So what was happening is SETI, does anyone know that you can use audio as a telescope? You know, pick up audio from just white noise from space, and you can recognize like planets and stuff based on white noise by looking at the anomaly. Okay, we keep getting a bouncing signal from this spot, therefore there's got to be an object sitting there, right, in the way. We can recognize that through these audio-based telescopes. And can you imagine the amount of data that you're taking to store a bunch of white noise, which, by the way, white noise is ones and zeros. Every time you have a noise, that's going to be an on, and every time there's no noise, that's going to be an off. White noise is that just sound, okay? White noise is this thing that happens in nature. You can't get rid of it. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no pattern to white noise. So what SETI said is, hey, you know what? We're going to collect all this data from space and we're going to look for anomalies that cannot be explained by nature. Things like Morse code, digital signals that have a repetitive nature to them or a structured nature to them that cannot be duplicated by nature, because nature is random. It's chaos, okay, as far as sound is concerned. Now, they collect all this data, and we don't have the power to analyze it, so what we're going to do is we're going to get TJ, Kyle, Nick, Nina, Deborah, we're all going to get together, and we're going to sign up, and you're going to get one packet of data, I'm going to get a different packet, you're going to get a different packet, you're going to get a different packet. The only thing required of us, leave our computer on 24/7 even if we're not using it. Because your computer is going to analyze your packet of data, and if there's anything in it, it will send something back to me to say, hey, there was an anomaly with Mina's data. So then I would say, okay, well, now I'm going to reach out and grab that data back from you so I can analyze that further. Yeah, so we broke up all of this data among millions of people across the world, had each individual computer crunching that data, so in essence making a supercomputer out of the internet, okay, to analyze data, just to look for these anomalies. And they actually did find a couple. Not too long ago, pretty recently, they recognized that there was some signal that was coming from outer space. Yes?
Basically, they're using like other people's like, I guess, power.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And people weren't really noticing.
Right. Well, no. You're noticing. You signed up for it. You signed up for SETI, and they would, because you signed up, every day they would send you a new packet of information that your computer would analyze while your downtime. If you're actually on the computer doing work, it would recognize that you need your computing power and not analyze that data. But, okay, so it's happening in the background during your downtime. The only thing that you have to do is leave your computer running. But they gave you all this computing power across the world to analyze huge amounts of data. And that's pretty much what blockchain's doing to protect data, okay? Instead of just storing all your data in one location, now we're breaking it up and we're saying, okay, well, your computer's going to have X number of data and your computer's going to also hold so much data. And then along the line, somehow we're connecting those with connecting strings and stuff like that and using high levels of encryption and stuff. So even if I do get the information from TJ, it might be of absolutely no value because I can't break the decryption or I can't decrypt or what have you to get the information from Jalen. No, you're not Jalen. I can't. Don't make.
Abby.
What?
Abby.
Abby. Okay. See? I was right. No, not even close. Look at the range of letters.
Heck for another class too.
Yes, you do.
Disappointed.
Yeah. It's okay. But there's a Jalen in that class. 3,400, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a Jalen in that class. Why was I thinking that was you? Yeah, anyway. Ignore
You know,
me.
you can sign up to go to space.
Yeah.
You got money?
No, it's free.
It's totally free?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I signed up for it. Going to space.
Wait, I think my brother's.
They'll let you go for free if you,
Yeah,
if you want to be the one that they test to see if you can live out there without oxygen.
I'll live there.
The lottery.
I'll
So,
live there.
anyway, see if you can survive a launch from the outside of the shuttle.
Why not?
So, anyway, we're looking for volunteers. We want to see the results. Anyway, it's just an interesting concept, so I thought I'd share that with you before you go for the weekend. Enjoy your weekend. I think
Yeah, but you can really
go over Chapter 6, finish Chapter 7. Make sure you go out and take the quiz that's out there. I believe there's a quiz out there for Chapter
Yeah, there is.
7 and 8. Yeah, make sure you do that. Yeah. Okay. So, cool.
She just emailed me back,
And
and she's like, yeah, I'm sorry, actually takes.
it does work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just do these stuff for myself, because sometimes the advisors are like, no help at all.
Well, and that's why you go to faculty members or the chairs, you too, that actually work in the department because they understand. And the reason I understand is because I created it. Have a good one.
Yeah, because I'm like, you told me this, like, I
Yeah.
would just be taking extra classes for no reason.
Yeah, the one thing I don't want to count technically is MIS1110, but I have never done anything about it, so it
That's the
counts.
first class?
Yeah, that's the Access and Excel, or
Yeah.
Excel and Word. So I didn't want that to count, but lo and behold, it.
So now I don't have to worry, because she was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, it actually counts. And I'm like, okay, thank you, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for.
I'm actually gonna get some
Wait.
food.
Okay, food.
I'm so hungry.
They have a vending machine over here.
I'm going to the mid-cap, I just ordered it online, I'm gonna go pick it up.
Oh, okay. Don't worry if you're late.
Huh?
Don't worry if you're
Oh,
late.
I'm not, I've been here since 9, I deserve this.
I'll be right back.
For the assignment due tonight, I was gonna ask him because he wants us to research anti-malware, firewalls, and anti-spyware. I was gonna ask him if I could do a VPN. If it'd be along the same concept.
Said,
The biggest reason why I want to do a VPN is because
VPN, right?
I'm wanting to get one for my computer, but I don't know what one's the best one, so I wanted to research it. But if not, it's fine.
That'd be good.
But it's along the same concept, other than they do it differently. Like anti-malware, it just skins files. Firewalls just protect you when you're on the internet. And spyware just kind of like, I don't know really what that does, honestly. But, to make sure people aren't like taking your data and stuff. But yeah, I compared NordVPN to like a free VPN service to see if paying for it is worth it or whatever.
Good. Yeah, I mean, VPN is a security product, so, yeah, I would research that. I don't think that would be an issue. He was just giving examples
Yeah.
to base things off of, so.
Yeah. I think that's probably what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna, when he comes back, I'll double check and ask him.
That's smart.
And I like the phone thing because I'm looking to get a new phone.
Right.
And so I compared the Apple phone to another brand I was thinking about getting.
We're being argued about in class today.
I'll start something.
I really do something.
Are you gonna start at 52?
Hopefully. I'm sick of him pushing it back, dude. I've been waiting.
Well, he said it's because the logins weren't coming back. Well, that's what he told us.
Yeah, that's what he said, dude. It's like,
I don't know.
Says, Sanford is a liar, my friend.
If we don't start it, all we're gonna do is sit here and talk for another hour.
Mm-hmm. Money's going down the drain.
It's not as bad as our FDN class.
Yeah.
No, we have this guy who literally has it as an 8 week still. Keeps on, he's gonna change it. Hasn't graded a single assignment.
Dude,
If you think about it money wise, every session we go to is like $80 down the drain.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like an $800 class. It's a waste of my time.
My FTN class, the lady, like you said, the same 8 week bullshit. The thing will be like, do it end of week 3, and I'll look at the due date, and the due date will be like November 6th. And I'll be like, what the like? I'll click.
Oh, ours doesn't even have the
like,
assignments.
November 6th. I'm like, is it due now or is it due in November? Like,
He doesn't
I
even
don't
open
know
the
what it is.
weeks. He opens them like the day of class. If not, he's like, oh, this week's will be open Friday, but he's like, there's no homework assignment this week. I'll give you all 10 points that showed up. Because nobody shows up anymore, because it's the most pointless bullshit ever. That's what all FGN classes are, but at least my other ones we did stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it was pointless.
I don't understand why we gotta have the third FTN class. The first 2 were already pointless.
Yeah. And the other fact of that is that it's run by any faculty teacher who can teach it.
See, I don't even have
So-
a teacher. I have the assistant athletic director of mine.
So see-
Oh my god.
So people-
So she'll come in and she'll be like,
People don't care because it's not a class that
Yeah.
one teacher has to teach all the time. If
See-
they kept it as one teacher, it'd be different.
you know what we fucking do? Walk into like, hey football, how was practice last night? Like, yeah, you know, what about you? Okay, you're on volleyball, right? How'd the game go yesterday? How this sounds like, and we're all sitting there, are you fucking kidding me?
He bullshits about us about his weed he used to sell as a
Yeah.
kid. His photography and shit.
I don't know, he's funny though, dude.
He's funny because he says racist stuff too.
I've never had a funnier professor ever. Clint Burnham's dude, guy is
He's an English teacher.
hilarious.
He put on a video of some Indian guy and he's like, damn, I'm surprised he's not trying to sell liquor in class.
Did anyone try to watch the video that Sanford put up last week by the one Indian guy? You couldn't fucking understand it. Did you try it?
What
Let me
video?
pull it up. Let me pull it up because when I was writing the paper, we clicked on it.
One of these two?
Huh?
One of these?
Yeah.
I didn't need that. I
Oh,
just Googled
no,
it.
just-
If
I
needed
didn't
to.
need it.
Just
Yeah.
wait for this. Week 4.
Did you watch the Hitler video?
Huh?
The Hitler video is great, dude. It's a classic.
Hey,
It's straight up
this is,
2007
I've never seen it.
as
Hey, this is the video.
purist.
This is the video.
Hello? So इस वीडियो का जो क्वेश्चन है वो है what is relational database and what are its
Just wait for me to keep going. If you
advantages.
don't understand, you can understand
So
something.
relational database क्या होता है सबसे पहले तो ये देखते हैं. So relational database क्या है? It is a type of database that stores and provides access to data points that are related to.
And once he gets really going here. He starts like fucking going off.
Just go on.
The database is a good.
अब इसके अंदर डेटा होगा. जैसे कि होगा ये one employee name है Aman. इसकी
That's what it was. It's like a freaking 6-minute video of that the entire time.
We had Stephano with us who speaks like Indian language.
Yeah.
And she didn't even understand what he
She's like, this dude is combining Punjabi with English and he's not doing a good job at it. Yeah, she couldn't even understand that shit.
Sanford probably getting on his energy drink's already up there.
She is alive. Except when we were showing everybody that video from the Indian guy.
Slowly moving over, inching bit by bit.
Wait, did we go into that one?
Yeah, not to those ones, but I have two classes in a row.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah.
I'm on like question 6.
He posted a video for 6
Okay.
with the other one.
I'm really glad we waited.
Yeah, you had to go through the phone call.
Okay, the 7, you literally just gotta go.
Chill. God.
Are you doing that paper yet? Wait, which
This
paper?
one?
So, 2 page, oh, the 4-page one? Yeah. I'm like almost there. This one, and then.
Shut up.
We may
I
go
double
to
space it. Wait, hold on.
What's up?
You double space it, I think. I'm not done with it yet, though. Oh, no.
I got question 1.
Go to 2 pages, so I need to do one more.
Sadly, I would have rather than in your class.
Yeah, no, I would have rather
I know, it's just the paper you just
Yeah.
Questions are,
It's just the paper, I don't think it's gonna be that secure.
Okay, yeah,
Started it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So even if we do all longhand, I just want to.
Yeah.
like that's mini point.
Because you never have to do this. What do you do? What do you only mini? I just want you to appreciate.
I just kept him.
No, no, he didn't. I kind of regret not working hard.
He's here.
What do you mean? Of course you're here. You got the
It's a
can
0
out
out of
of
5 rating. Or a 1 out of 5.
I'm lucky it's still there. Oh, I gotta stop that.